Hello everybody and welcome to a short video tutorial on how to get started with the Gauntlet. Now in this video, I'll explain what the Gauntlet is. I'll tell you how to register and get started and how to compete in the CTF. Now the Gauntlet is OFSEC's brand new and free quarterly CTF happening right here in Proving Grounds, and it's all for free. As you can see on my screen, the event is starting on October 7th and ending in December 2nd. So you have a lot of time to play and have fun. Now, what exactly is the Gauntlet? The Gauntlet is our defensive CTF, Jeopardy style, no VPNs required. All you need is to register for an OFSEC account, register for the event, and compete, and you stand a chance of winning massive prizes. Let's get started right away. This version of the Gauntlet is called Echo Response. Now, how do you register? First of all, you go and create an account in the OFSEC portal. So you need an OFSEC portal account, which is free. Then you register for the event itself. So two things. I'll take a step back. You need to create an account in the OFSEC portal, and you need to register for the event. Now, don't worry, I'll show you how to do that shortly. Once you have registered for the event, you can go ahead and start competing, hopefully climb up the leaderboard and win some wonderful prizes. Now, the Gauntlet is a solo event, so you play as an individual. There will be a community channel in Discord where you can interact with other players, but it's a solo event. You submit flags, Jeopardy style. I'll show you how to do that. We have some unique way of flag submissions, and you reap the rewards at the end. So let's switch screens. Let me show you what it looks like when you register. So here I have an OFSEC portal account. So I'm logged into the OFSEC portal right now. You see I'm this cool samurai, but I have not registered for the event. So I see a banner at the top of my browser that says register now. So you can do it this way. You can click on that to register. You can go to events, where you'll also see the upcoming events. And if you go back to my dashboard, you can also check your widgets to see where the registration is. Now, let me show you this. I'm doing this in a test environment, so let me show you where my actual account is. Now, over here, I have registered for the OFSEC account as well as for the events. So if I go to events, I have the event here, which is ongoing. Like I said, it hasn't started yet, but this is just a tutorial. You can click on this to access the event itself. Or if I go back to my dashboard, I can also access the event from my events widget. So don't forget that you need to register for an account in the portal and then register for the event. Okay, now let's jump into the event itself. Because I have registered, I have the ongoing events in here. If you have not, you'll get the option to register and you'll be given an overview about the event. Now you can see this even if you've registered or not, you can see the overview of the event itself. This describes the event, and we blend a bit of cybersecurity and magic in here, right? So a lot of fun. It's a very cool storyline. Now there are statistics which show my current rank. Currently not ranked because I haven't done anything yet. The points I have accrued and the flags I've submitted, including the bonuses I have obtained, the first points, and I'll explain what this is later. We will drop labs every week. Currently, this is a lab that has been dropped. And once again, like I said, this is in a test environment, so this shows a lab that has been dropped. And then there's a tutorial, which I'm going to run through with you. There are a few things in here that I'd like to discuss. For example, the difficulties of the lab. We're introducing some completely new category. So we have easy, medium, hard, and insane. And of course, you get more points when you do the harder labs. We also have the leaderboard, which will show your progress and where you are as you partake in the event. In this case, we have these mock users. and the countries they are from, as well as the points they have obtained. Then there's a how to play, which is a short tutorial showing you how to get started with the Gauntlet echo response. Now let's jump right into the action. I'm going to go into the overview section, and then let's select the tutorial. Why not? I'm going to click on this, and this is going to open up the tutorial for me. Inside of the tutorial, there are a few important details that I would like to cover with you. First of all, there's the description of the particular lab. Now, we refer to the labs as grimoires, right? If you are into the whole magic arena, you would understand that the grimoires are usually just a book that contains incantations and charms and all of that for magicians, right? Now, in this particular grimoire, we have a description about the lab itself. Then we have the instructions on how to play the lab. Now, these are very important for you to read because they contain important information. Now, at the top right, you see that there's a download button where you can actually download an archive file, which is password protected for the specific grimoire I am solving. Now, it's important that you read the lab description and the lab instructions because the credentials to unlock the archive file will be found in there. So very important, guys. Please do not forget. Now, like I said, we've introduced some very interesting ways of submitting your responses. Let's start off by looking at the type of responses that you submit in the portal. Here is an example of a question where we assume that you've identified an IP address used by an attacker whilst you analyze the files that you have downloaded. Now you find these IP addresses. How do you submit them? You can submit them in a comma-separated form. Highlight here. You can submit them with spaces, like so. And you can also submit them in text form, describing what the IP addresses are. The first is this, the second is that, and the third, and so on and so forth. And you can also provide them in a list format, like so. Let's pick one of these, and let's submit them. So this is a more simplistic submission of where you just provide the responses to the specific question. As you can see, I have successfully submitted my response. Great. I'm beginning to get points. You can see that in the points window. I'll explain this shortly, as well as my progress. Now, this is one type of question. There are also other types of questions where we require that you do a little bit more than just submit the indicator you found, like an IP address in this case. In this particular example, you provide some information about the IP address. We'll have questions like that, where you submit not just the indicator, but what the indicator was being used for. In this case, this IP address was being used to exfiltrate files. You can submit it in a list format like we have done previously, or you can also provide it in text form like so. I encourage you to be as descriptive as you can, because the better the description, then the more chances you have, the greater the probability that your answer will be accepted to be adequate. Here we go. We'll submit this particular one as well and hit submit. Let's see. Hopefully I'm going to get this correct. It's just copy paste, so I should not get this wrong, right? Awesome. So this has been successfully submitted. Okay, now make sure you do not include duplicates, right? Okay, now let's talk about the third type of response. As you can see, it is a little bit more descriptive. Here, we are requiring of you not to just submit the indicator. So in this particular question, where we submitted the indicator and the use, here you are asked to provide a little bit more context. So you just don't throw in the answers, but you're required to perform an investigation and then provide a little bit more detail on what you found during that investigation. Now, why are we doing this? We're doing this to ensure that you fully understand what you are doing. that you just don't throw answers in there nilly-willy, but you have a good understanding of what you are doing. You can see that's quite detailed. The more detail you provide, the better the chances that your answer will be valid. Now, we do look through the submission for important details, important IOCs, important indicators. So make sure that you include these after your investigation. It's not an English test, so you don't have to be wonderfully construct your grammar, but make sure that your responses are cogent, they describe your findings, and highlight, importantly, the key indicators. So we can pick one of these as an example. I seem to be doing all of this for you. And you can see that my points keep increasing as I submit these. So let's drop this in here and see. And these are just examples. Here's a very interesting thing about doing the tutorial. You actually get points for submitting the responses for the tutorial. Now here is another type of submission. In here, you are asked to download, for example, the archive file, extract the details from the archive file, and perform your analysis. You can see the password is provided. Like I said, please make sure that you check the description as well as the lab instructions for the password. Once again, these will require that you are also thorough in your responses. Remember, guys, in cybersecurity, there are always times you have to explain or describe the incident to perhaps a non-technical person in the form of a report. Now, you cannot just throw information at the user. You need to be able to explain importantly, especially if you have to go and explain to an executive or to your boss who may not be as technical as you are. You need to provide as much information as possible. So these are really fun, and I encourage you to really play around with these. Now, like I said, just doing the tutorials alone gives you points, and you can see at the top left, my progress for this specific grimoire is 60%. I have 30 out of 50 responses. The level for this tutorial is easy. Of course, the answers have been provided. And then there's the first pawn. Now, let me explain what the first pawn is. The first pawn means that you are the first person to finish the grimoire, finish that particular challenge or lab. It means nobody else has done it. You are the first person to finish it. So you have the first pawn. Now, I will show you some details on how the first pawn affects your overall scores. So let's go back to the main channel, and I will explain a few things down here. Now, like I said, we are in the overview section, and let's describe the labs as we see it. So for example, let's pick the Stealer's Shadow. You can see that this is a level of medium, easy, medium, hard, and insane, like Quantum Conundrum. Here are the points for the specific challenge if you are able to successfully complete them. And then here with the cross sign is the first pawn. Here are the points that are obtained for doing the first pawn. Once again, the first pawn is if you're the first person to complete the challenge, the grimoire. So the first pawn disappears if it has been obtained by another person. It's no longer going to show active. In this case, it's still there. The lab has not been released yet. You can see it's upcoming. So the first pawn is still there. You get 6 points for getting the first pawn. The lab is released in 10 days. And also just to highlight this, if you obtain the first pawn, it is no longer grayed out like this. This means the first pawn has not been obtained by anybody. But if you get the first pawn, it looks something like this. You would see that it's actually active or colored. You can see that my rank has also changed from doing the tutorial. I have 30 points, as you saw in the tutorial. I submitted 3 responses, 3 flags, and I have no first pawn because there's no first pawn associated with the tutorial. Hopefully all is clear and good. Okay, now let's get into the leaderboard. Here, like I mentioned previously, you have Skywalker, Kenobi, and Anansi. Wow, I'm doing really good. And over here, I'm third placed, and I only show up on the leaderboard when I successfully do or submit responses for a grimoire. I don't have to complete all of it, but I will not show up in the leaderboard until I actually submit a flag. So please remember this. Now, let's say there's a lot of people who have signed up for the Gauntlet. If you want to find out where you are in the ranking after you have submitted a response, you click on this and it will take you to your current location, right? So let's say 1,000 people, you don't have to scroll through them. This is actually active and it takes you to the specific level that you are on the scoreboard, right? Once again, you have my rank, I have my points. If I have any first point that is indicated here, and you can see my last submission. Now, this is important, the last submission. Let's say that two people have the same points. For example, Skywalker and Anansi. We have the same points, but how come he's higher on the leaderboard than I am? We look at the last submission, right? So how quickly the person submitted. So say, for example, how quickly a person got to that particular point. So say, for example, the person has did a particular challenge or did a number of challenges or got to 30 points in, at say 10:30, right? And then at 11:55, I get to the same 30 points. Although we are at the same points, he submitted or got to the 30 points much faster than I did. And so he ranks up higher on the leaderboard than I do. Hopefully that makes sense. Now here, as the user Anansi, here are the points that I have. And here are the number of first points I have submitted. So the number of first points, not how much points I've obtained from the first points. So if I've submitted 3 first points, then it will show up here as 3. Those first points might be worth 30 points, but those 30 points will not show up here. It's just going to show that I've submitted the 3 first points. Then we have the last submission as well as country, which I am from. And hopefully you are beginning to get a good understanding of how the Gauntlet works, echo response in this particular case. And we hope that you have a lot of fun when you play this. Now, because we are doing our best to make sure that you have a lot of fun, whenever you finish a grimoire, it's actually going to unravel the rest of the story. Now, please make sure that you rate the grimoire or the challenge or the lab afterwards. Please make sure that you rate it for us so we understand how well we are doing. It's very important to get that feedback from you. Now, this is pretty much all that you need to know. And if you have any questions, like I said, there will be a Discord channel where other people are playing. And so you can have a lot of interactions with them. Make sure that you aim for the best to win all of these prizes. So here are some of the prizes. Let me go back in here just to, spice it up a little bit. Down here, we have all of these really exclusive prizes for you, right? Hoodies and caps and airpods, awesome prizes, as well as course bundles, etc., right? I wish I could compete in the Gauntlet also. And I know that you have a lot of fun doing it. So thank you and see you there in a few days. So watch out. Like I said, challenges will be dropped and you'll get a notification when you have registered for the event, right? You get notifications whenever a challenge drops. You also see in the platform when the challenge is going to be dropped. So always make sure that you keep an eye on things and have a lot of fun. Take care and see you in the Gauntlet.